At Hits Meet, we try to bring in some of the interesting experts who are trying to work on a few topics, and they have developed such an expertise that their insights will be very, very valuable for anyone to talk to them or listen to them. Very brief introduction about him. He has basically worked as a CMO for PlayUp and Rummy Circuit. One of the most important things is he has helped organizations to kickstart their very early branding days. So he has hands-on experience on helping brands get started. And I would really request Mr. Kalyan to take over the mic and start the webinar for us.
Hey, Sandeep, thank you for that short, quick version of my intro. Is that so? Yeah, I'm 2001 to 3 batch, which is 38 batch. Before that, I was running a rock and roll magazine for 3 years. Did lots of shows. So I'm heavily into the personally. I'm heavily into the music side of life. Uh, Went to AMCAL and then had a good corporate run. So I did a lot of digital, online, customer acquisition led senior marketing roles across up till about 2012 when I pivoted a firm called Rummy Circle from what it was previously called as Games 24x7. And after that, I've had many journeys where I've consulted with a lot of startups, more than probably 37 odd startups, leading up to 2015-16. And then I started Social Catalyzers, which is into influencer marketing. So in many ways, I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I love my jobs, but I'm loving doing this. Right now, the firm I run, it's called Social Catalyzers. And we started as Minos because there were many other big influencer marketing firms already out there. But we were able to differentiate ourselves by telling people mostly what are the things to avoid while doing influencer marketing, how to keep it good, and how to bring in some aspects of real marketing into influencer marketing than to just be reaching out to influencers and talking to them. So I'm going to cover some of those topics. I'm going to go close to 100 kilometers per hour as far as possible, but feel free to stop me from a perspective if you want to ping, but I think we'll keep a Q&A section towards the end. First things first is you know what, how people try to mix up the agenda of influencer marketing versus in the context of comparisons and the kind of conventional KPIs they want to put forth. So you know what? In fact, I start by asking clients. I've gone to Unilever in Indonesia and gone and said, look, you guys seem to be spending so much money on influencer marketing. Why the hell are you doing influencer marketing? Actually, not just Unilever. We've gone and spoken to WPP, Group M clients. In fact, whoever I speak to, I said, why are you trying to do? Of course, it's a rhetorical question just to tell them, look, I have an answer why you should be doing influencer marketing and why you should not. And a lot of what a lot of people seem to be doing seems to be, from the philosophy that we want to extend, is why they should not be doing influencer marketing and how they're doing it wrong. So, the conventional KPIs that every time gets thrown at when you start saying, okay, I'm going to do influencer marketing. What's it going to be? My cost per reach, my cost per impression, or cost per view, etc. And since the topic of today's thing is, should you be doing it? Of course, you should be doing it, but there's a lot of filters and consideration and brand life cycle stages before you should actually be looking at influencer marketing. So we're saying, you know what? Paid media is the way paid media works is it's largely content, choosing audiences. It's beautiful for all these conventional KPIs, very important KPIs, I might as well add. And very performance-led KPIs, all the happy things that can be precision targeted, that gets you to do better, and it gets smarter and gets even people proof as we go more and more forward. However, what we at Social Catalyzers we like to say is that while you're doing all of those content choosing audiences agenda, you also desire advocacy, which means people to say good things about you. You want people to choose your content versus the content choosing the people and interrupting them. So we say, you know what? All of this virality / earned media / advocacy, these happy things happen when audiences choose content And largely the play of influencers is to engineer that audience is choosing content versus an ad being thrown at them. And that's really it. So it's not really a war, but we're saying, the paid media agendas are going to be the big guys in the room always and should be. But when you want to do depth driving versus your width agendas, that's when you start using influencer and content marketing. And yeah, I'm going to get into some content marketing ideas and thoughts as well in terms of approaches. So with that, what are we saying is that, look, there is already a big problem on the internet with all the paid media that you're running. One is people have fatigued out. It's become a blind spot to most of it. And so you're finding more and more intrusive ways to target your audiences, both in terms of interrupting their content consumption cycle. And the second part, and therefore people have gotten, like almost all of you would be running some ad blocker on your phones or on your desktop for sure. And this is what we're saying here as well. So you have so you're saying, why should you be doing influencer marketing? If you want to drive some level of depth, if you want to drive advocacy, recommendation of your products or services, and drive credibility. Awareness can be an agenda, but credibility is far better service through influencer marketing than by using paid media alone. And I'll give you further examples. And please, let's also think back to our campuses and our good old books. In terms of all marketing, as precision led as we may be, there are no right and wrong, precise black and white answers. There are gray areas to everything I say. But having said that, I'm trying to drive salience of agendas of paid media versus content marketing, influencer marketing, so on, which is all earned media led stuff. The other thing is, influencer marketing actually has seen a trend because of pure ability, convenience, and of this whole world of COVID. So when COVID triggered March 2020, in fact, our businesses started growing. In fact, a lot. In some cases, it grew. In fact, Indonesia, our market just shot past India businesses in a period of 10 months starting COVID. Now, the reason for that is brands who would make lots of big video and big, heavy traditional campaigns, they could not shoot videos because you can't go out and do any shoots. So they said, how do we still get out to the consumers? So they started using influencers to create content over this period, who could just sit at home and say good stuff, and then use those assets, not just rely to the organic reach of the influencer, but to go outside and try and put media money behind it to burst it. But at least literally, you've solved two problems of creating good content, creating believable content, creating content from people who had a say in the matter credibly. So it was a great time to steal the march, and a lot of brands actually did that. The other thing is, what do influencers allow you to do? Most ads are buy me now or love me so much, click me now, and maybe go and do XYZ, whatever your CTA, which is go to the brand page or go to the product page or go to the Amazon store and so on. But if you want a back and forth conversations, influencers can really allow you to do that. Not only will they say stuff, they can participate in the comment section. They can drive a whole bunch of two-way communication, which drives a lot more conversion. So obviously in your media mix, this cannot be everything. But when you have these depth-level agendas where audiences are to be really involved, then influencers start to get the job done for you. By the way, I've used the term KOLs outside of India, mostly even in India, but outside India, in Southeast Asia a lot. They're called KOLs, and KOL simply is a short form of key opinion leaders. It's very interchangeable with influencer marketing. And in fact, there's, one of the statements I like to use is, after Google, the next biggest search engine is YouTube. People are searching for content, people are searching for how-to recipes, whatever you want to do. I mean, outside of Google, you go and check it out on YouTube if you want a visual video version of it. And influencers are becoming literally your, the store clerk of making recommendations, of clarifying choices. Because in every category, and even more so over the last 2 years, the number of D2C brands that have come up and who are really impinging on every vertical, be it safety, care, home, product, hygiene, fashion, lifestyle, book, across the board, you just being hit by 30 different coffee brands, 30 different sustainable brands. And that's where, how do you get the difference? We're saying, okay, video becomes very important is really what I'm trying to say on the slide, that look, how can we use influencers and content creators to create a lot of video that is not just brand led, heavy production content, marketing insight led TVCs or DVCs. Well, a DVC is a digital video versus a TVC is a television video commercial. So we said, again, influencers are really able to help you what we call create last mile credibility, which is diffuse and infuse into the internet a lot of credible content that can help conversions over a period of time and even on in terms of immediacy. So moving on, there are tons of platforms, but the primary ones are these. In fact, TikTok is no longer there in India, but in Indonesia and the rest of Southeast Asia, it works quite well. But if you had to pick just three, it would be Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as of now. There and within Instagram, it's become really a big aggregator because you've got static images, you've got videos, you've got stories, and you've got reels. And that, of course, multiplies and cross-pollinates on Facebook as a platform as well. Then you have the long tail of YouTubers, and then there is Twitter. So quick one on this. Why have I bucketed them separately? The simple answer here is two aspects. On Instagram, let's say, there are the two aspects are the duration of the content and the life of the content. How long does my content survive? So on Instagram, typically the content you should not have, we recommend videos, and the content should not be more than a minute. Like it largely is recommended on a typical Instagram video should be 59 seconds or less. Unless it's stories, then it becomes different. It's a shorter format and so on. But you have IGTV and all of that. But we say, you know what, typically your content should not be more than 59 seconds. And the life of the content is at best a few days. The content dies out by an influencer or any content creator. It really sees the huge amount of consumption in the first 3-4 days, maybe stretch it to a week, 10 days. And that's the life of the content as such. Versus Twitter, less visual. Of course, there's a lot of visual infusion into the content, but it's mostly text. It's quick, it's tactical, and it creates instant buzz among a very niche audience. So the life of the content is also very short. YouTube is where we've seen a lot of magic, where the content can be really long. It can be much longer than any other format that you would typically prefer in terms of brand-led influencer content. Having said that, the life of the content can sometimes be, so for example, we've done a campaign for Axe where we used a guy called Harsh Beniwal to do a funny video. And we had kind of estimated we'll deliver the committed KPIs of 5 million odd views in about 30 to 45 days. So we did deliver that. But over the rest of the year, we doubled, and I think the video now stands at almost 13 million plus views. So there's a long residue of long consumption, long tail on YouTube. Not only is the content longer, the life of the content is also much longer because YouTube works in a very beautiful way of content recommendation, search-based content recommendation, in seriatim content recommendation when you watch some video. So these are the thoughts. I'll come to a little bit later where there is something called aggregated communities, which is the power of these Instagram pages and these viral pages who are not typically influencers. They're not individuals. It's just a community of content consumers, but it's so steroidally, virally active that we can drive a lot of visibility and fun, depending on your brand's mapping needs, to reach out to millions of people like that, and at a fraction of the cost of an influencer. So guys, don't worry. It's all there in the presentation. I'm coming there. I mean, this part always excites people. They say, hey, can we jump to that? I'll get there. So influencer marketing 2.0, with all that preamble, what the hell is influencer marketing 2.0? And frankly, we make this point because, you take a stone and throw it down, depending on whichever city you are in. Let's say you're in Gurgaon and you throw it down Cyber City, Cyber Hub, and you'll probably hit 3 or 5 other influencer marketing firms. So because of this new trend of spending by brands for all the good reasons and in their various life cycles of learning, there's been a mushrooming of influencer marketing firms. And in our opinion, it's been all transactional. Hey, I can also get you influencers. So we're saying, look, anybody can get you influencers. If you have a decent influencer marketing firm, you should be able to provide all sorts of influences. But is that the value you want? That anybody can. So that's not value, it's commodity. So we started asking questions. Specifically, I started asking questions and we discussed this internally in the team at Social Catalyzers that, hey, how are we going to be different? Because this influencer marketing thing is becoming a bit of a, it's almost making a lot of clients bored. What the hell, if I did all of this, what happened? How should we do it? How is this different? So the first thing, and in fact I was trying to say that in the beginning of the presentation, influencer marketing should be about influence. Other than that, you're better off going to Facebook or Google and spending money with there. If you're going to build awareness, if you're going to measure only on conventional KPIs of how many people did I reach, how many impressions did I get, how much was the cost per view, all of that is served far better by Google and Facebook any day directly if you just spend money as media and promote your own assets. Therefore, we're saying if it's about influence and how do you influence people? So we started asking very basic questions. If you're not in the business of influencing people using influencers, don't spend your money on influencer marketing. It's a waste. Then we said, if it's about influence, then this depends on the credibility of the influencer. And that's where we start running into problems. Now, not all influencers are credible. Some influencers, they promote a brand on Monday, then on Friday, then on Tuesday. And you're like, hang on, do the followers even care anymore in terms of credibility? So we started saying, how can you convince people of the fact that whatever the influencer is saying, what is the science behind designing for credibility is essentially what we said. And you can use certain techniques of basic behavioral science. Everybody, please think Dr. Leena Chatterjee when you go back. And we said, what can we infuse to drive more credibility by an influencer? And let me give you an example of what I'm trying to make. So literally, if you draw an axis of credibility versus the size of the influencer, barring a few outliers, you will see mostly like an inverse correlation, which means the bigger I am as an influencer, the less likely my followers are going to think I'm saying something really positive about a brand because I really love it. Your obviousness with your size is more about transactional goods. And that's where you move into brand ambassadorship versus influencer, really. And this is a good point to also, people have asked me, hey, what is the difference between a celebrity and an influencer? So, and this is my version of an answer. It may not be the right answer, but I think we make a good point by saying that, look, what, influencers are people, who cut their teeth on the digital platform, grew as great content creators, and then became famous, and maybe sometimes really famous to have actually even gone to the silver screen or the third screen, versus celebrities who are really movie stars or real world celebs who also have a lot of digital social presence. And therefore there's a merging, but that's the way we like to look at influencers, which is why you say celebs versus influencers. I think celebs are very visibility builder people versus influencers are the one who are credibility drivers. And this is the idea that we said, okay, problem number one is the bigger I am, the more obvious it is that I'm transacting with somebody because I'm a celeb. It's not that I really love the product. It's just that, hey, I'm here to give my endorsement of this product. Sometimes it can still work in certain categories like fashion and lifestyle, where a Lakme as a brand would just want an association with a top model who has a lot of social presence, or a top celebrity or a movie star, because they want a cool association. They don't really care because everybody knows Lakme comes from Unilever. It's a great product and it's got all of the credibility issues are not where they're at. They just want to drive cool. But so there are rationals. So we are saying as social catalyzers, is it visibility or advocacy and depth that you need? Do you want to do emotional stuff versus rational driving? Are you a new brand or an established brand? What is your brand life cycle? And is therefore, what is the relevance of influencers in your brand's journey. I mean, what is the business metric that you want to impact right now? And of course, should you be working with influencers long term, and or should you be churning influencers? It could be different answers, but largely we say we should churn influencers, because you don't want your influencer to come and say, hey, buy Coca-Cola today. Then again on Wednesday, I come up and tell you, hey, let's buy Coca-Cola today. So you don't want long term. You want different people saying things about your brand. Otherwise, it sounds fatigued. So we're saying, therefore, we tend to recommend a lot of this micro influences. We're saying, you know what, if you really want to influence, make it sustainable, drive enough depth. True influencing is done mostly by the guys in the middle and the smaller guys, because they are more people like you and me. And there is a lovely hierarchy. Here is a sample of what I'm trying to make a point on is, imagine an influencer has got 4 packets of a powder of a very, very well-known brand, and this cannot be influencer marketing. In fact, this is almost making fun of your brand. But this went live for a brand in India, and we're saying that, look, of course, this may have passed muster. I'm not saying the brand did it intentionally, but we're saying, you know what, let's not, the idea is not to make your logo bigger and bring your product come alive in every aspect of an influencer's content. You're really trying to influence people, respect the audiences of the influencer to give them an asset or content that is worth consuming. And therefore, we're saying, you know, how do you design for credibility? And let me take a very quick example of how influencer marketing has been done to death till now. So if I have to sell you this phone, and if you guys can see me, I'm just going to still gesture a bit. The typical old influencer marketing 1.0 would be, oh, what a lovely phone. I just got this on Amazon, 15,000 bucks. Front camera, 10 megapixels, back camera, 40 megapixels, 2000 mAh battery. Guys, go get it. No, this is not influencing. This is like shouting out for your product. And you might as well then just run your own ads and tell people about it. And you'll do a far more efficient job of it. So we're saying, you know, if I'm going to convince you, is there an anatomy to an influencer's post that is designed to convince, in spite of the fact that I may talk about Coke in the morning and L'Oreal in the afternoon and Panasonic in the evening? I'm exaggerating the timelines, of course, but just to make a point, there is fatigue in the top influences. The other problem with the brands in the country, in every other country, not just India, is the top big brands love to work with the top 5 to 600 influencers in the country, which means, you know, as a top influencer in the country, I'm talking about a brand every other day. So, and it's fatigued. We're saying, in spite of all of that, can we still design an influencer's content that will convince you? And this is how we said, you know what? Start with a casual entry, which is, suppose I have to do the same post, and if you guys can see me, I'm going to continue talking with this phone example. How would social catalyzers do this differently? So imagine I'm an influencer, forget my video, but here's how we'd go about it. We say, hey, you know what? I was thinking of buying a phone for myself and I didn't want to spend too much. And I asked around a few people and took some advice. And finally, I bought this phone off Amazon for 15,000 bucks. Hey, and then you come to, so I started with a casual intro. There was a need state and I addressed it. Part 2 is, we said, discovery of delight. Something that you find to be true, which is, man, and at 15,000 bucks, the front camera with 10 megapixel alone seems to be worth it. Yeah. So you did a discovery of delight, stage 2, and then you do stage 3, which is the problem area. Most influencers tend to start gushing about the product. Oh, what a lovely phone. Oh, what a lovely thing. Oh, what lovely edges. What a lovely finish. What a lovely screen. And this is the behavioral science aspect of things, which is the more claims you make in the first person, which is you yourself, of how good a product is, the more you dilute the credibility of those claims. We said, okay, is there an elegant solution to this? And yes, there is. There are many elegant solutions to all of this, but 101 BS is, take somebody else's claim and put it forth to be true, which is, instead of saying all the other features are so lovely, you can actually reinforce others' claims that you find to be true, which in this example would be stage 3 of the post is, you know what, I didn't believe it when my brother told me the battery lasts 2 days. Actually, it's already day 3 and it's still at 12% battery. So I made somebody else's claims, which I am reinforcing. And then you can continue down that path of saying all the great things, man. And I had read some reviews about the back camera and its macro lens, but damn it, at 15,000. So you can reinforce certain price to feature things and continue down that path of reinforcing others' claims. And finally, ending the post, which we call furthering of intent, which means I've already bought this phone. How the hell am I going to buy yet another phone? But we said, you know what? You can imply that as an influencer. You don't even have to walk the talk, but you can imply further love to the brand. And in this case, this is how this will work out. Man, it's my sister's birthday next month, and I could become a brother of the year at $15,000. Should I get her this phone? What do you guys think? So I ended the post by furthering intent towards the brand and opening it up and asking my followers to actually come and participate and give me your views on this. And that is what we call it. And this is like a graphic equalizer, as you can see on your screen. We're not saying all of this has to be followed. This is a one anatomical process that could be followed, but at least we are making the attempt to design to convince people versus just saying, hold 4 bottles of powder on my shoulder, on my hands and my head and say, hey, wow, I'm so cool. I don't think it does anything for the brand. Therefore, and this is a kind of a point we said, you know what? Micro influencers are where the joy is. Try small experiments. They are more credible curators of brands. It's the next best thing to peer-to-peer communication, which is people closer to my size, but not out of my reach, and who sound credible and who seem to be good content creators. So, of course, there are lots of questions, but we're just saying this is one subjective reduction towards approaching good influencer marketing. In fact, they have another advantage of pure mathematics. Let's say a 1 million follower influencer would charge you a couple of lakhs. In that, you could probably get 20 micro influencers or more. And they would probably add up to maybe a total just cumulative follower base, maybe even larger. But they drive more depth than just the visibility an influencer or big influencer would. Next thing you should look at, and I know we spoke about what is the right kind of KPIs to look at. We say, what happens because of the previous two reasons that influencers are always talking about brands, and because of that fatigue factor, influencer posts, especially the bigger influencers, when they do a branded post, it tends to become, it underperforms their other posts that are not about brands. Obviously, because of the fatigue factor, because of the obviousness of their brand endorsement. So, but what we do at Social Catalyzers is we work hard, keep aside some money to make sure the KPIs are met that give you. So, you know what? How can we different? Marry the science of credibility, marry the science of KPIs, and don't just transact with influencers one-on-one. Can we put up a great show? Can a bigger influencer start a communication? Smaller influencers pick up the communication and build your extenders and drive more credibility. So can we do something that is more than the sum of its parts? And we think we have a method, which is when you break down influencers by their size, you start getting different agendas. So the big guys become your credibility, visibility drivers. As you go down, your credibility extenders come in more and more, to the extent that can we even use nano influencers, people like you and me, to simulate engagement and put up a good show. I'll give you examples of that. And in the middle of this, I'm assuming you guys can hear me clearly because there's a lot of construction going around me. So I'm assuming I'm more or less audible. Can someone confirm that?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, yes, sir.
So having this hierarchy, we said, you know what? You should build a pyramid and a stack of the overflow, which is awareness drivers, engagement drivers, and trust builders. And they come differently. Surely by the size, by the dint of the size, influencers should have different agendas. You will always have outliers, and I'll give you examples, but largely this is what we are spelling out. And therefore we said, maybe we don't need 5 celebrities to be talking about the brand as influencers. Maybe get one influencer, one big guy, 3 big mid-sized guys, lots of micro influencers, and maybe hundreds of nano influencers. That we would have set up a stack of cascading communication that not only sustains, but that serves an agenda of continued credibility. Because if you're not doing credible stuff with influencers, I keep saying that to brands, just don't spend the money on on stuff. You can have tactical uses. You want a little peppering. You can't afford 5 brand ambassadors. Therefore, you can do 5 post transactions with 6 celebrities, which costs a whole lot more than a endorsement deal. But having said that, you know what? The real strategic need is more strategic than tactical, as you do with the bigger influencers, not influencers, but celebs. Um, then we also have other things. You know what? At the end of the day, no matter how big or small or efficient influencer you are, there is only so much you can reach organically within your follower base. So we recommend things like whitelisting. Take permission from the influencer to boost that post and reach out not just to the organic reach of the influencer, but boost it to reach out to a whole bunch of other people. It's like saying you bought a Merc and you just drive it around Vasant Kunj, versus all you need to do is spend a little bit more on gas, hardly anything, but you could take it to all over Delhi and all over UP or wherever the hell you want. So the idea is to take your places, maybe take the content rights and use it as literally an ad asset on your page and then boost it. So many various ways to go about it. There are some beautiful organic ways to go about it. And then we talk about other fun stuff. So, of course, and I'm being very hypothetical here because we've spoken about this with at some point with Axe brand at Unilever, saying that, look, we shouldn't be asking guys, when you're really talking about influencers, the guys are following the girls and the girls are following the guys. I mean, apart from a few girls have a lot of girl followers and so on. But really, Disha Patani would probably have 70% male followers. So if you want an influencer to say, hey, listen, I'll be your Axe angel or some such whatever communication, you might want to pivot your audience of the influencer to your brand versus thinking my brand persona is the suave 23-year-old guy with a gelled hair. But that needn't be your influencer. Your communication audience versus your communication target audience is very different from what your brand persona is. So, and therefore your brand influencers become very different. And here's a simple example of social catalyzers really sciencing it. So this is an example where we work with the deodorants category for Unilever on the left, which is for a brand called Rexona. The same influencer was used by Nestle on the same day with another influencer marketing agency. And at the end of the campaign, we drove literally 1.56x the engagement that the same influencer got for another brand. And so you're saying, this is possible. This is very simple. You just need to think about it, plan it, and deliver it so that it puts up a good shout out. Second one is we did some very interesting stuff. Again, Unilever overload. And this is where there was a moment in Avengers Endgame when it came out almost 3 years now, where Ant-Man actually asked Iron Man, hey, are you wearing Axe body spray? And he actually says yes. So we said, you know what, we'll make fun of this and we'll amplify this using these two funny comedians, Kenneth Sebastian and Sailbullah, that, hey, if you want to have a superpower just like Iron Man, well, we don't know about anything else, but you could start by spraying yourself with Axe body spray. Now, what is the fun stuff? How did we make it much bigger than it would have been by itself? If you look at these two people at that point in time had about 750,000 followers, which means collectively, if they made really good content, they would have got 300 to 400,000 views. But we were able to drive more than 3 million views. And we built in an amplification cost. We built that amplification, let's say 2x, but we delivered literally a 7-8x outcome in terms of the reach of the content. How did we do it? Because it was Axe and it was a massy brand, we use all these fun viral pages on Instagram called Laughter Colors with 1.7 million followers, 500,000 followers, 1.3 million followers. And we did story swipe ups to promote the original content. And that's how magic happened. It was fun content. It was for a fun brand. We used fun pages to amplify organics and to take it far beyond anything these two influencers could have done by themselves. Of course, and we keep saying that, use paid media or use organic amplification to reach KPIs that go far beyond the organic reach of an influencer. In fact, we're saying, tell a story. So here, in fact, this was for a brand called Dr. Oetker's. They had come up with a fat-free, creamy but fat-free mayonnaise salad dressing. And the brief to us initially was, hey, get us this celebrity chef Kunal Kapoor, and he's going to talk about uh, the product, and he'll do a recipe. We said, no, let's do a fun story. So we kind of borrowed from the Pepsi blindfold challenge. We said, we'll call it Fool the Chef. So we fed him a salad, which was made with this, of course, all very scripted, where he said, oh, wow, what a creamy salad dressing. Because it was fat free, we wanted to highlight creamy, because that's one, natural perceived loss of value, that if it's something is creamy, it can't be fat free. So we made a highlight of that, and basis that reveal that, hey, listen, it's actually fat free and it's awesome. He was inspired to make a recipe. So we said, let's tell a story then, just to say, celebrity chef is going to say, oh, it's a fat free salad dressing, it's so creamy. Let him be surprised and then tell the story. And it kind of worked well for us. Of course, this is from a very baseline thing. Look, there used to be influencer marketing firms who will come and tell you that, oh, we're strong in the South, or we're strong in the West, or we're strong in the North. Those days have sailed almost 2 years ago. Any influencer marketing firm worth their salt would be able to get you any influencer at the same cost. But from our perspective, that social catalyzers like to look at, we say, look, we'll get you the right influencers. And this is a sell, by the way. So let me be very brash about it. To get a client, the right influencer, with the right subjective design of convincing communication at the right cost, with the right KPIs, which means most influencer marketing firms out there will commit the most conservative KPI that they can achieve. We say that, look, we're not going to break the bank, but we'll give you KPIs that are your healthy, rightful KPIs. And they were the reason you selected an influencer with a certain base and a certain engagement. You are entitled to that. So we just stuck our neck a little bit out on guaranteeing hygiene. And that itself has helped us win campaigns away from many of our much bigger, better known influencer marketing firms with legacy out there. We work with a lot of physical formats. Can we use influencers in your shows? Can they go to their stores and promote the stores, do it across cities? Can we do interesting conversations around even if you have to do a baseline visual with an influencer? Can we do a carousel and tell a good hair day story with the yogini around the magic of Ayurveda? Can we have a bad hair day situation story being told? And so on. So I'm going to really skip past the case studies and instant mail it out. But all we're saying is very tactical stuff we have done, where when we committed a certain kind of KPI in terms of what kind of impressions or static posts will receive and how many views the swipe up story will receive and how did we reach and deliver all of that. We've done some very interesting stuff around that across brands about, how to use influencers across various stories on Father's Day. In fact, what we did was the son or the daughter styled their dad, Happy Father's Day. And again, it was quite lots of fun content. We've done it for auto companies where we've used their launch story to come alive. What we're saying here really is to say that, look, we've got access to influencers across genres. Just give me a second. There's a lot of sun coming in suddenly after the rain, so I'm going to put the curtains on. Please pardon this take exactly 11 seconds. Much better than my glistening bald head. Okay, so that's the bit on influencer marketing, really, really fast, and that leaves us very little time. So I'm going to jump a little fast into the next interesting aspect from, brands to leverage the power of people on the internet organically without necessarily using influencers. So this is not to say this or that. The objectives change when you do this. But social catalyzers, we started pioneering this 4 years ago, where we felt that, look, there are influencers, that's fine. But there are these tons of pages on Facebook and Instagram with an average of 500,000 back then. Now it's all crossed 1 million, where we have more than 150 to 180 different pages with an average of 1 to sometimes 30 million followers on their pages. And they can literally signal virality for you. So we call this virality signaling. In fact, You as brand managers or marketers, and even me myself, I've received it as a brief as well as I've given it as a brief. Let me just go a little Hindi on this. ये campaign viral कर दो. To which my response normally is, आज तक किसी ने flop picture बनाई नहीं है, लेकिन रोज बनती है. And to be honest, brands are really good at it, at making flop movies, because they're not in the business of making viral content. They're in the business of selling products and selling the brand. Once in a while, a brand gets it right and has viral, but virality is not an objective in itself for a brand. Having said that, the trick to virality, apart from making beautiful, great content, is to signal virality, which is these pages which share viral content, memes, jokes, movie, Bollywood, entertainment kind of stuff. What if they shared your branded asset as the admin of the page to saying, man, I found it so nice, and opens it into this micro movie house with 1 million followers on his Instagram page or her page, and shows it, because they are a content page, they are not an individual page. And then you're doing a shout out, driving millions of views, getting millions of people to watch your content organically. It's not an ad that's being thrown at them. They're just saying, hey, what a lovely video. An example, a small example. So while Ponds would have spent from Unilever tons of money on Google and Facebook to promote this lovely video they made on girl power, what social catalyzers recommended was, look, give us that asset, give us a fraction of the money, and we'll make it really count in terms of making it reach millions of people. And it was a brand love campaign. It was not a transactional campaign, how good this product is. It was about girl power. And we just took these 17 different pages. There were some publishers, there was Instagram pages and Facebook pages, and we seeded the content. In fact, we took the permission to do an edit, something a brand never allows. We wanted everything unofficial about it to come alive. We actually put a watch till the end super on top. And that's how, viral pages share content. Watch till the end. This will blow your mind. Yeah. And on so on. So we brought that treatment in, seeded the video natively into those pages. So it looked like somebody had got the video and he had loved it so much as an admin of this page that creates lovely content, and uploaded it. And we drove millions of views. We had committed about 3.7. We delivered a little bit more than that. But imagine delivering millions of views at a fraction of the cost, using the power of organic communities. There are advisories on this. Is your brand, all these pages are not like paid media precision targeting. The internet's least common denominator resides there, basis a geography like India. So it's largely representative of the audience, which is gender and age and so on. However, in this case, these pages had a better skew because they wanted a little bit more female skew in those pages. We're not able to get more than, let's say, 30-40% skew, because otherwise it's about 75-25 male is to female. But we skewed that, but we drove a certain kind of messaging, not just among the core audience, but a slightly wider youth audience and a wider audience of a certain age group as well. Of course, all of this science and data is available to us. Similarly, we've done it for many brands. There was a music video while it was promoted on YouTube and Facebook. We said, all right, we'll also promote it using organic methods. And we did that. And we drove millions of views. And we've done this for tons of brands. In fact, the power of these pages on Instagram and Facebook is quite awesome. Social Catalyzers was the only agency on board literally for digital for a brand called 2Yum when it launched in December 2017. It was a healthy brand that was saying, we're guilt-free snacking. They had Virat Kohli as the brand ambassador. And in fact, Mr. Anupam Bokhe, who was the CMO back then, old school Unilever, reach frequency thinking, conventional media. And yet we were highly recommended that, look, these blokes are a new firm. They do some very interesting stuff. All we literally did was we used the power of these Instagram pages and we did some tactical Twitter and YouTube stuff. 6 months later, with less than 1% of their spends, we were able to give more than 22% attribution to digital in terms of awareness. This is the client's own report, their own brand track. And all we did was we just took the assets. Kudos to the brand, of course. Virat is an extremely credible in the category of health and fitness, extremely credible endorser. And he's famously refused the Pepsi campaign apparently because he didn't believe it was healthy. So he had relevance in spite of being size. And this is an outlier I like to cite as an example when I was talking about the previous time about credibility and reach of influencers. Having said that, we seeded the content, we created teasers on Facebook, Instagram pages, saying what the hell is Virat snacking? And then, of course, we did a reveal that it's actually 2 yam. And we got tons of engagement. Can you see like 36,000 likes and kind of mad engagement? For any influencer to give it this kind of money would have cost us a 10x. But these pages did the job because we were talking to a massy, youthful audience on the internet. And we were able to drive lots of crazy stuff and virality signaling across the brand. But we came back with a business metric, which is awareness driving on the category for the product on digital was more than 22% with less than 1% of the spends. So this is a really feather in our cap and things. I talked to you about earlier about YouTubers where we've done some magic campaigns. We work with small content creators, big content creators, category wise content creators, big artists in the category. Here's an example again with Axe. We worked with Harsh Beniwal. Now, the example I'd like to give you here is as a big brand, if you were to put on a hat and you can buy a YouTube masthead for, I think it's above 2 crores for a day now in India. But over a period of year, we were able to drive more than, it says 8 million views. Now it's, I think, crossed 13 million views. This particular video, which was integrated in with Axe. Axe was coming up with the Axe Ticket, the pocket body spray version. And look at the kind of views and engagement with 300,000 likes and 46,000 comments. This probably would have surpassed any Google mastered, YouTube mastered performance. Of course, staggered over a year. But some content creators are really that powerful that they can do that. But they, of course, come at a later stage of your brand, depending on how big you've grown, how massy you want to go, and how much relevance is that of a YouTuber to do such outreaches. In fact, the video has started trending on the top 10 most popular videos for that week in India. This is also a 3 years old campaign. But just the point to massive outcome with a fraction of the cost with an influencer, a YouTuber, who gave you engagement that is insane and also over a long period of time. In fact, you can go and Google every Hollywood horror movie ever, and this would probably show up on the top search results. But the idea here was we played on the product which was integrated into the video. Of course, we do lots of Twitter trending. In fact, we said that, there's an insight we like to use called not everybody likes to start a party. Most people like to join a party, which means when you run a contest, when you run a trend, when you do anything, can we simulate entries? Like, can people join in the conversation to give it can we create FOMO that, hey, there's a contest and tons of people are seemingly participating in it? That actually lets people who see the otherwise contest running, they're saying, okay, fine. Hey, I'll join the party. So we did this for Adidas a couple of years back where we actually trended hashtags. So hashtag trending is a very conventionally used technique of hacking the algorithm on Twitter to get your conversation hashtag or keyword to trend on the top 10 most visible conversations. It's very easily done and it's a very low cost activity as well in the context of big brands. But what we did here was we said when we run the contest, we will seed our own entries as well. We got tons of normal people to send in entries who we incentivize. But what happened as a result was on the back of 500 seeded entries, we were able to generate more than 5,000 real entries to the extent that even the Prime Minister at that point, Narendra Modi, joined in into the contest thinking it's a cultural trend and deleted it later because it was a branded contest. So his team would have deleted it and so on. A couple of celebrities joined in. They didn't delete the tweets, of course, because they love the concept. So yeah, power of a good idea laced with creating FOMO around the asset that, hey, listen, this is a contest worth participating in because it's a fun idea. Also, tons of people seem to be participating. So we've done it for many brands as boring as Asian Paints and so on. But we came up with a cool idea, which is called Stain Reaction, recorded reaction videos of various WTF moments when you spill something. And because it's a stain-proof wall paint, we were able to bring that alive through hashtag trending on Twitter and so on. So there are many other manipulative things you can do. You can manipulate outcomes of polls. that third party people can create using the power of nano and sub influencers, and that can become the voice of the people. Of course, this is very manipulative, but we've done it for many movies releasing on the same weekend, and we wanted to signal to the people and drive herd mentality on the fact that people seem to think that this movie is better than that. So before a movie launches, you can drive such narratives. I know this sounds very manipulative, but this is exactly what it is. But this can be done. Just to throw in some thoughts and ideas. The internet is there for you to hack. For the basic and simple stuff, we've got everybody else. But this is how I get my kicks on working through the power of influencers, is to say, hey, we can use influencers, give them different roles, build narratives, hack sentiment, go to Quora, go to Google, do whatever you want, but build your own story, build your narrative, drive the credibility, stay ethical to the extent that don't make false claims. So if you're glow and lovely or fair and lovely, as you were known before, and you claim that I become 1 tone fairer in 7 days, then I will go and seed conversation. I will not go and seed conversations. I should not go and seed conversations that will tell you that you'll become Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie in 24 hours. We'll just stick to what you are willing to stay and stick to as brand truth. So that really summarizes the broad line ethics on how to go about doing things. With that, I submit just in time, and I am happy for your Q&A.